Hello, I'm Neville Teller, and I'm Eurasia Review's Middle East correspondent. This past week, I've been struck by how Turkey's president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, has seized the political initiative and projected himself as the leader of the Muslim world, in opposition to Donald Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Incidentally, I'm assured that despite the D, the G, and the N in the English transliteration of his name, you pronounce Erdogan as Erdogan. I call my piece Erdogan and the Jerusalem Issue. Turkey's president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, is a thoroughgoing Muslim Brotherhood adherent, and has been since he first entered politics. During his early years as Prime Minister, back in the early 2000s, he was careful not to promote too radical an agenda too soon. Despite his Islamist views, he made an official visit to Israel in 2005 to be feted by Israel's then Prime Minister, Ariel Sharon. However, it wasn't long before Turkish-Israeli relations began to sour. The turning point came in 2009 with the first conflict between Israel and Hamas, which had seized power in the Gaza Strip and had been firing rockets indiscriminately into Israel. In the annual international gathering at Davos that year, Erdogan couldn't restrain himself. Rounding on Israeli President Shimon Peres, Erdogan called the Israeli operation in the Gaza Strip a, quote, crime against humanity, unquote, and barbaric. Wagging his finger at Peres, he declared, "When it comes to killing, you know very well how to kill. I know very well how you hit and kill children on beaches." Then, infuriated by the moderator's refusal to allow him more time in response to Peres's emotional rebuke, he stalked off the stage. Now, between that first indication of Erdogan's extreme Islamist stance and his intemperate reaction to the announcement by US President Donald Trump on December the 6th, 2017, recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital, lies the great barren waste of the Mavi Marmara affair. That was an encounter on the high seas between Israeli soldiers and a Turkish flotilla of 6 vessels, nominally on a humanitarian mission to relieve what had been described as the siege of Gaza. During the encounter, unfortunately 9 of those on board the Mavi Marmara lost their lives. Erdogan manipulated the event into a rupture of Turkish-Israeli relations lasting 6 years. But the series of investigations that followed revealed a cynical anti-Israel plot planned with the connivance of Turkey's ruling AKP party and possibly of Erdogan himself, its leader. Under the cloak of providing humanitarian aid to Gaza, an operation aimed at instigating a confrontation with Israel was meticulously planned. A 6-ship flotilla was organized by Western activists working with the Turkish IHH movement. That's a non-governmental organization supported by the Turkish government, with a long track record of gun running and violence in support of Islamist causes worldwide. The lead ship, Mavi Marmara, was purchased by the IHH from a major shipping company owned by the Istanbul municipality, which is run by the ruling AKP party. And far from being crammed to the gunwales with humanitarian aid, no less than 3 of the 6 ships in the convoy actually carried no aid at all. and Mavi Marmara was one such. To this end, some 40 armed activists were ushered aboard. They were ushered aboard the leading ship, Mavi Marmara, at different embarkation points from the rest of the passengers, and without any of the security checks to which they were subject. This party of 40 militants was led by the head of the IHH. Now, a Turkish journalist on board the Mavi Marmara said, quote, "The flotilla was organized with the support of the Turkish government, and Prime Minister Erdogan gave the instructions for it to set sail." Israel's botched military intervention and the consequent death of 9 of the militants provided Erdogan with a political and diplomatic bonus he could scarcely have hoped for. He wasn't slow to exploit it, condemning Israel for committing a, quote, massacre, unquote. The involvement of his AKP party in the plot remained largely hidden. It took 6 long years of intensive negotiations before the affair was finally put to rest in June 2016. But even though Erdogan publicly slighted Israel on an almost daily basis, Israeli-Turkish trade grew massively over that period. And in May 2017, a large Turkish business delegation visited Israel, enthusiastically advocating a 150% increase in Turkish-Israeli trade over the next 5 years. Quote, "We need to change the perception of the Israeli citizens and the Turkish citizens toward one another," said Mehmet Bayukekski, chairman of the Turkish Exporters Assembly. Erdogan's reaction to the Trump announcement on Jerusalem, however, seemed to presage a replay of the Mavi Marmara situation. Speaking in Parliament in Ankara, Erdogan declared, quote, "Jerusalem is a red line for Muslims. This could lead us to break off our diplomatic relations with Israel," unquote. 3 days later, he turned his ire on Israel, which he described as a terrorist state, vowing to use all means to fight against the US recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu decided to give as good as he got in the battle of words. Denouncing Erdogan as a brutal dictator, he declared, quote, "I'm not used to receiving lectures about morality from a leader who bombs Kurdish villages in his native Turkey, who jails journalists, who helps Iran get around international sanctions, and who helps terrorists, including in Gaza, kill innocent people." Note that phrase, "who helps Iran get around international sanctions," because I'll be returning to that point in just a few seconds. Erdogan emerged from the Mavi Marmara episode with a greatly enhanced prestige, both domestically and more widely in the Muslim world. Now he is again seizing the initiative. He convened a special meeting of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, of which he's currently president. Presenting himself as the Muslim defender of Jerusalem, he condemned Trump's announcement, castigated the Arab world for its lackluster response, and called on world powers to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine. Erdogan has 3 additional reasons for rounding on the United States. First, he hates the assistance America is giving the Syrian Kurds, who are fighting successfully against Islamic State. Second, the United States has so far refused to extradite Fethullah Gulen, the leader of the rival religious movement, whom Erdogan accuses of initiating the abortive coup against him in July 2016. Third, and most embarrassing to Erdogan, is the trial currently underway in New York involving Iranian-Turkish businessman Reza Zarrab. Now, Zarrab is a key witness in the criminal trial of Turkish banker Mehmet Hakan Atilla. In his testimony, Zarrab has implicated Erdogan in an international money laundering scheme that Zarrab and the banker ran between 2010 and 2015, which allegedly allowed Iran access to global markets despite United Nations and United States sanctions. Zarrab testified that in 2012 he was told by Turkey's then economy minister that Erdogan, who was prime minister at the time, had instructed Turkish banks to participate in the multi-million-dollar scheme. Erdogan's most recent threat was to establish a Turkish embassy accredited to the State of Palestine in East Jerusalem. Whether making a big stir about the Jerusalem issue will succeed in diverting the world's attention from other, more embarrassing matters, only time will tell. Thank you for listening, and please join me again next week. Goodbye.